Mechanics don't want you to know this because these 6 vehicles will literally put them out of business. We're talking about cars and trucks so ridiculously unkillable that the cockroaches after a nuclear apocalypse would be driving one. I spent years talking to mechanics and they all agreed on the same secret list. If you buy one of these, you'll never need to buy another vehicle again. Number 4, that one's basically cheating.
All right, let's kick this list off with a car that's gonna make some of you raise an eyebrow. And honestly, that's exactly why it's here. The 2018 Hyundai Elantra. Yeah, I said Hyundai. Now, before you scroll away thinking this guy lost his mind, hear me out, because this little Korean sedan has been quietly embarrassing cars that cost twice as much, and most people have absolutely no idea. See, there was a time when Hyundai was the punchline of every car joke. Your neighbor bought one and the whole street felt sorry for him. But here's what happened. While everyone was still laughing, Hyundai went dead silent, locked themselves in a lab, and came back swinging with some of the most reliable engineering on the market. The 2018 Elantra is the perfect example of that revenge arc. Under the hood, you've got a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine pushing around 147 horsepower. Now, is it gonna pin you to your seat? No, but that's actually the point. This engine doesn't need to be a hero, it just needs to show up every single day and do its job, and that's exactly what it does. It sips fuel like your grandma sips tea on a Sunday afternoon. We're talking around 32 miles per gallon combined, and on the highway you can squeeze close to 40. Your wallet is going to send you a thank you card. But here's where it gets really interesting. Hyundai backed this generation with one of the most aggressive warranties in the entire industry. 10 years or 100,000 miles on the powertrain. Think about that for a second. The manufacturer is literally betting on their own engine lasting a decade. That's not marketing, that's confidence. And the data backs it up. These engines routinely cross 200,000 miles with nothing more than basic maintenance, oil changes, filters, and the occasional "please rotate my tires" conversation at the shop. The 6-speed automatic transmission in the 2018 model is smooth, predictable, and most importantly, it doesn't have a dramatic personality. It's not trying to impress anyone at a party, it just shifts when it's supposed to and never throws a tantrum. Mechanics actually love this about the Elantra. There's nothing fancy to break, no turbos to blow, no dual clutch nonsense to replace its 60,000 miles for the price of a small vacation. Now, here's where I keep it real with you because I want you to trust this channel. If you're shopping for a used 2018 Elantra, there are a couple of things you need to watch. First, check the brake system carefully. Some owners reported premature brake wear, especially on cars that spent most of their life in city traffic. It's not a deal breaker, but it's a cheap fix you want to catch early. Second, listen for any ticking or knocking sounds from the engine on a cold start. There was a minor issue with some units related to connecting rod bearings, and Hyundai actually extended coverage for it, but you still want to verify that any applicable recalls or service campaigns have been completed before you hand over your money. Third, take a close look at the suspension. The ride on these is comfortable, but if the previous owner treated every speed bump like a suggestion, you might find worn-out struts sooner than expected. Bottom line, the 2018 Hyundai Elantra is the car that nobody brags about at a barbecue, but it's the one that's still running perfectly fine when every other car in the neighborhood has already been traded in twice. It's the quiet kid in class who ends up becoming a millionaire. And honestly, if your ego can handle driving something that doesn't scream for attention, this might be one of the smartest used car purchases you'll ever make. Now, if you think the Elantra is impressive for how long it survives, the next car on this list takes durability to a level that's almost offensive.
Okay, so I just told you about a car that nobody brags about but secretly outlives everything. Well, this next one, people do brag about it. They just don't realize they've been bragging about the wrong things. Everyone remembers the Ford Focus for how fun it was to drive, but almost nobody talks about the fact that this thing simply refuses to die. I'm talking about the Ford Focus MK2.5, the facelifted second generation that rolled out from 2008 to 2011. And if you know, you know. If you don't, sit tight because you're about to feel really bad about every car you've bought instead of this one. Now, let me paint a picture for you. It's 2008. The world economy is falling apart. People are losing their minds, and Ford quietly drops a refresh on the Focus that turns out to be one of the most bulletproof compact cars ever made. Nobody noticed because everyone was too busy panicking about their mortgage, but mechanics noticed. Oh, they definitely noticed, because these cars almost never showed up at the shop for anything serious. And when a mechanic tells you a car is boring to work on, that's not an insult. That's the highest compliment a vehicle can receive. The heart of this thing is the 1.6 or the 2-liter Duratec petrol engine, and if you went diesel, the 1.6 TDCi. These engines are so over-engineered for what they need to do that they basically run in a permanent state of relaxation. The Duratec in particular is a cast iron block legend. It doesn't care about your cold mornings, it doesn't care about your short trips to the grocery store, and it certainly doesn't care that you forgot that oil change by 3,000 miles. It'll judge you silently, but it'll keep running. The timing chain on these motors, not a belt, a chain, means you're not sweating an expensive replacement every 60,000 miles. It just sits in there doing its job like an employee who's 3 years from retirement and has zero interest in drama. But here's what really separates the MK2.5 from the pack: the chassis. Ford gave this generation a suspension setup that was genuinely fun to drive, which almost never happens in the budget car world. You could throw it into a roundabout with confidence, and it would grip like it had something to prove. So you've got this bizarre combination of a car that handles like a go-kart, but has the mechanical reliability of a refrigerator. It's like finding out your boring accountant is secretly a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Now, let's talk about what you need to watch for, because no car is perfect, and I'm not here to sell you fairy tales. Number 1 on the list, the rear suspension bushings. They wear out, and when they do, you'll hear a clunking noise from the back that sounds like someone's trapped in your trunk. It's a common and well-known issue on the MK2.5. The good news is the parts are dirt cheap, and any decent mechanic can sort it out in an afternoon. Number 2, check the clutch on manual transmission models. If the previous owner spent 5 years riding the clutch in stop-and-go traffic, you might be inheriting a bite point that's higher than your electricity bill. Get it checked before you commit. And number 3, inspect underneath for rust, especially around the rear wheel arches and the sills. These Fords are tough mechanically, but the bodywork can get a little dramatic when it meets road salt. A quick look underneath will tell you everything you need to know about how that car has been living. The Ford Focus MK2.5 is the definition of a car that punches so far above its weight class that it shouldn't even be legal. You can find these for absolute pocket change on the used market right now, and they will run for years without asking for anything in return, except maybe a pat on the dashboard once in a while. If reliability had a spokesperson, this car would be on the billboard. And speaking of cars that laugh in the face of time, the next vehicle on this list doesn't just survive the years, it actually gets more respected the older it gets.
So we just talked about a Ford that handles like a go-kart and lasts like a tank. But what if I told you there's a vehicle out there that took the concept of smart engineering and turned it into an art form? A vehicle so cleverly designed from the inside out that the first time you fold down the rear seats, you'll genuinely wonder why every other manufacturer hasn't been sued for wasting your space. I'm talking about the Honda HR-V. And if there's one car on this list that proves you don't need to spend big to live big, it's this one right here. Now, here's the thing most people get wrong about the HR-V. They look at it and see a small crossover, just another cute little SUV in a parking lot full of cute little SUVs. And that's exactly what Honda wants you to think, because underneath that humble, unassuming body is some of the most thoughtful engineering Honda has ever put into a compact platform. This is a company that builds jet engines and racing engines and robots that can walk upstairs, and they decided to pour that same obsessive energy into a crossover for regular people. That's like hiring a Michelin star chef to make your lunch sandwich. Technically overkill, but you're not going to complain about the result. The magic starts with what Honda calls their magic seats, and yes, that's actually the official name. They weren't even trying to be humble about it. The rear seats fold completely flat, fold up like theater chairs, or create a tall mode configuration where you can literally fit a small bicycle upright in the back seat. No other vehicle in this class comes close to this level of interior flexibility.
You've got a car that looks compact on the outside, but swallows cargo like it's been lying about its size on its dating profile. Under the hood, depending on the generation and your market, you're typically looking at a 1.8-liter iVTEC 4-cylinder, or the newer 1.5-liter setup. These are Honda engines, which in the reliability world is basically saying these are engines that will outlive your marriage, your career, and possibly your interest in cars altogether. The iVTEC system is time-tested technology. Honda didn't experiment here. They deployed decades of proven engineering. These powertrains regularly push past 200,000 miles without major drama, and the CVT transmission that most models come paired with, while not the most thrilling driving experience, is specifically tuned for longevity and fuel efficiency. You're looking at something in the range of 30+ miles per gallon without even trying, which means this car pays you back a little bit every single time you pass a gas station without stopping. The chassis is built on the same platform as the Honda Fit, which is legendary in its own right, and that gives the HR-V a low center of gravity that makes it handle way better than a crossover has any business handling. You sit up high, you see everything around you, but you corner like you're in something much smaller and sportier. It's a weird but wonderful contradiction. Now, full transparency time, because this channel doesn't do fairy tales. If you're looking at the HR-V, particularly the first generation with the CVT, pay close attention to the transmission behavior during your test drive. Some owners have reported occasional hesitation or jerky behavior at low speeds, especially in early production models. It's not a widespread failure, but it's something you want to feel for yourself before committing. Also, check the air conditioning system. There have been reports of the AC compressor giving up earlier than expected on certain model years, and that's a repair bill that can sting if you're not prepared for it. And finally, road noise. The HR-V is comfortable, but it's not a luxury car. At highway speeds, you'll notice more wind and tire noise than you might expect. It's not a flaw, it's just the trade-off for keeping the price accessible, so make sure you take it on a proper highway test drive before you decide, so there are no surprises. The Honda HR-V is that rare vehicle that makes you smarter just for buying it. It's practical without being boring, reliable without being expensive, and clever without trying to show off. It's the car equivalent of that friend who always has the right tool in their bag, never panics, and somehow never runs out of room for your stuff. Now, if you think Honda knows how to build something that lasts, wait until you see what's coming next on this list, because the next vehicle isn't just reliable, it's become a full-blown legend for surviving things no car was ever designed to survive.
Alright, so we just talked about a Honda that's basically a Swiss Army knife on wheels. Clever, efficient, and impossible to outgrow. But now we're stepping into territory that's going to divide the comment section. And honestly, I'm here for it. Because the next vehicle on this mechanic's secret list is one that millions of people have owned, millions more have ignored, and almost nobody has given the proper credit it deserves. I'm talking about the Nissan Sentra, the car that the entire world has been sleeping on like it's a mattress commercial. Now let me be very specific here, because Nissan has had its ups and downs, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But the Sentra, particularly certain generations, has quietly built a reputation among mechanics as one of those sedans you sell to someone and then you just never see it again. Not because the owner disappeared, but because the car simply never breaks down enough to need a shop. It just keeps going like that one Energizer Bunny commercial, except this bunny has 4 doors and a surprisingly decent trunk. Let's get under the hood. The Sentra has been powered across its generations by variations of Nissan's trusted MR and QR series engines, and these are workhorses in the truest sense of the word. The older QR.5, the later MR20, these are naturally aspirated, no-nonsense, low-stress power plants. There are no turbochargers trying to be heroes, no direct injection systems clogging up with carbon at 80,000 miles, just good old-fashioned port fuel injection doing exactly what it was designed to do: deliver fuel, make power, repeat forever. These engines don't chase headlines, they chase odometer milestones, and they catch them too. 200, 250, 300,000 miles is not unusual when you stay on top of basic maintenance. We're talking oil changes, spark plugs, air filters, and maybe a coolant flush when you're feeling generous. That's it. That's the whole list.
The Sentra is also built with simplicity as a philosophy. The suspension is straightforward, the electrical system doesn't have 17 computers arguing with each other over how to roll down your window, and the parts cost less than a decent Friday night dinner. You can walk into virtually any auto parts store on the planet and find what you need for a Sentra without pre-ordering, without waiting 2 weeks, and without needing a second mortgage. And that matters more than people realize, because the true cost of owning a car isn't just the purchase price, it's every single dollar you spend after that first handshake at the dealership. Now here's where I have to be straight with you, because this channel is built on honesty, and I'm not about to ruin that over a Nissan. The number one thing, and I mean the absolute first thing you need to investigate before buying any Sentra, is the CVT transmission. Nissan's Xtronic CVT has been the subject of lawsuits, extended warranties, and more forum rants than I can count. Some model years are significantly worse than others, and if you end up with a unit that's already showing signs of slipping, shuddering, or overheating, you're looking at a repair bill that could exceed the value of the car. So here's the rule. If it's a CVT model, demand maintenance records, check if the transmission fluid has been changed regularly, and during your test drive, pay extremely close attention to any hesitation, whining, or rubber band feeling during acceleration. If something feels off, walk away. There are plenty of good ones out there, you just have to be patient enough to find them. And if you can find a Sentra with a manual transmission, that's the holy grail. Grab it and don't look back. Second thing, check for rust around the rear wheel wells and underneath the subframe, especially on models that have lived their lives in areas with harsh winters. The Sentra's body isn't the thickest out there, and road salt can be aggressive over time. A quick inspection underneath tells the whole story. And third, the front strut mounts. They're a known weak spot, and when they go, you'll hear a clunking or knocking noise over bumps that sounds far worse than it actually is. Cheap fix, but annoying if you don't catch it early. The Nissan Sentra is proof that a car doesn't need to be exciting to be extraordinary. It's the sedan that shows up every single day, asks for almost nothing, and somehow still has more life in it when most of its competitors are already sitting in a junkyard having an existential crisis. And if you think the Sentra's survival instinct is impressive, the next vehicle on this list takes the word endurance and redefines it completely. You're seriously not ready for this one.
So we just talked about a Nissan that the entire world has been underestimating for decades. But now I need you to buckle up, because the next vehicle on this list is going to make you question everything you thought you knew about compact SUVs. You ready? It's Hyundai again. That's right, Hyundai landed on this mechanic's secret list not once, but twice. And if that doesn't tell you something about where this company has been heading, I don't know what will. This time, we're going bigger, bolder, and tougher. I'm talking about the Hyundai Tucson, specifically the second generation that ran from 2009 to 2015. And this thing is what happens when an automaker decides to build a compact SUV that could probably survive being forgotten in a parking garage for 5 years and still start on the first turn of the key. Now, let me set the stage for you. When this generation of the Tucson launched, the compact SUV market was an absolute war zone. You had the Toyota RAV4 strutting around like it owned the place, the Honda CR-V flexing its resale value at every opportunity, and every other brand scrambling for whatever scraps were left. And then Hyundai walks in, quiet, confident, and carrying a vehicle that cost significantly less than all of them while delivering reliability that matched or beat most of the competition. It was like showing up to a sword fight with a tank and a coupon for half-price armor. Nobody took it seriously at first, and that was everybody else's mistake. Under the hood, the most common setup you'll find is the 2-liter 4-cylinder Theta 2 engine, and in some markets, a 2.4-liter version that gives you a little more punch when you need it. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, certain Theta 2 engines across the Hyundai and Kia family have well-documented issues in specific applications. But here's the key detail most people miss. The Tucson implementation of this engine has had a considerably better track record than some of its siblings and other models. The cooling system is laid out differently, the load on the engine and this heavier chassis actually keeps it operating in a more consistent thermal range. And the result is a powertrain that, when properly maintained, crosses the 200,000-mile mark without writing you a dramatic goodbye letter.
Pair that with a solid 6-speed manual or a conventional 6-speed automatic, not a CVT, not a dual clutch, just a proven torque converter automatic. And you've got a drivetrain that mechanics describe with the most beautiful word in their vocabulary: boring. And speaking of the transmission, this is a massively underrated advantage of the Tucson. While half the industry was experimenting with CVTs that sounded like angry lawnmowers and dual clutch units that shuddered like they were possessed, Hyundai kept it traditional. That 6-speed auto shifts smooth, responds predictably, and most importantly, doesn't hand you a $4,000 repair bill at 100,000 miles. It just works, day after day, year after year, like a postal worker who's never once called in sick. The interior space on this thing also punches above its class. Backseat passengers actually have legroom, real, honest legroom, not the, well, technically your knees aren't touching the dashboard kind of legroom. The cargo area is generous, the ride quality is comfortable without feeling floaty, and the all-wheel drive system available on certain trims gives you genuine confidence when the weather turns ugly. It's not an off-roader, let's be clear, but for rain, snow, and the occasional unpaved road to your friend's cabin, it handles everything with zero complaints. Now, let's talk about what you need to watch before signing anything. First and most importantly, oil consumption. Some Theta 2 engines, especially higher mileage units, can start consuming oil between changes. When you test drive, check the dipstick before and ask the owner about their top-up habits. If they look confused by the question, that's actually a good sign. It means they've never had to think about it. Second, front lower control arm bushings. They wear out over time, and they'll give you a vague, wandering feeling in the steering that can be mistaken for an alignment issue. It's a cheap and straightforward repair, but you want to know about it before you start chasing phantom alignment problems that don't exist. And third, inspect the rear brake calipers carefully. On models that have spent a lot of time in humid or salty environments, the rear calipers can seize, causing uneven brake wear and that annoying pulling sensation when you stop. A proper inspection during purchase saves you a headache later. The Hyundai Tucson is the SUV that does everything you need, nothing you don't, and asks for so little in return that you'll genuinely feel guilty about how good of a deal you got. It's the overachiever that never asks for a trophy. It just keeps showing up and delivering, quietly, relentlessly, and without a single shred of ego. Now, we've reached the final vehicle on this list, and I saved it for last for a very specific reason, because this one isn't just reliable, this one has become a symbol of survival itself. And once you hear why, you'll understand exactly why mechanics whisper its name with respect.
All right, I told you I saved the best for last, and I meant it, because the final vehicle on this mechanic's secret list isn't just a car, it's a statement. It's proof that sometimes the most indestructible things on the road aren't the biggest, the most expensive, or the most famous. Sometimes it's the one that was born in the shadow of its legendary older brother, spent its entire life being overlooked, and still managed to outlast almost everything else in the driveway. Ladies and gentlemen, the Mitsubishi Lancer. And no, I'm not talking about the Evo. I'm talking about the regular, everyday, nobody ever posters this on their bedroom wall Lancer. The one that deserves a standing ovation and has never once received one. Until today. See, here's what most people don't understand about Mitsubishi. This is a company that builds fighter jets, air conditioning systems for skyscrapers, and industrial equipment that operates in some of the harshest environments on planet Earth. And then they took that same philosophy, that obsession with things not breaking under pressure, and dropped it into an affordable compact sedan that you can find on the used market right now for the price of a decent vacation. That's like finding out the engineer who designed your local bridge also personally welded your bicycle frame just because he felt like it. The heart of the Lancer is typically a 2-liter 4-cylinder FB11 engine,
And this is where the story gets beautiful. This engine is naturally aspirated in the standard Lancer, which means there's nothing forced, nothing stressed, and nothing waiting to fail dramatically at the worst possible moment. It produces around 148 horsepower, not exciting on paper, but excitement isn't what we're here for. We're here for the kind of reliability that makes other cars jealous. The FB11 is an aluminum block with a timing chain, not a belt, which means you're not scheduling an expensive replacement every 60 to 90,000 miles. That chain is designed to last the life of the engine, and in most cases, it does exactly that without a single complaint. These engines cruise past 200,000 miles so routinely that Lancer forums don't even celebrate it anymore. It's just expected. It's like congratulating the sun for rising. Yeah, that's what it does. The transmission options are equally nonsense. You've got a 5-speed manual that feels connected and direct, or a CVT on later models. And here's something interesting. Mitsubishi's CVT in the Lancer, unlike some competitors we've already discussed on this list, has actually held up remarkably well over time. It's not the most thrilling thing to operate, and you'll never write a love letter about the driving experience, but it does its job with a quiet consistency that would make a Swiss watchmaker nod approvingly. Now, the chassis. The Lancer shares its bones with the Evolution platform, and while the standard model obviously doesn't get the turbo engine or the advanced all-wheel drive system, it inherits a structural rigidity that is genuinely uncommon at this price point. The car feels solid in a way that competitors from the same era simply don't. You close the door and it thuds. You hit a pothole and the car absorbs it instead of sending a shockwave through your dental fillings. There's a planted, confident quality to the way a Lancer drives that whispers its rally heritage without screaming about it. But let's keep it honest here at the finish line, because we've been honest all video and I'm not stopping now. If you're shopping for a Lancer, the first thing to inspect is the paint and body. Mitsubishi used thinner paint on certain production runs, and clear coat peeling, especially on the roof and the hood, is one of the most common cosmetic complaints. It won't affect reliability, but it will affect how you feel looking at it every morning, so check carefully. Second, the rear drum brakes on base models are adequate but not spectacular. If the previous owner neglected them, you might find uneven wear or a spongy pedal feel. It's an easy and inexpensive fix, but it's worth knowing before purchase. And third, the air conditioner evaporator on some model years can develop a musty smell or reduced performance over time due to moisture buildup. Run the AC on full blast during your test drive, smell the vents, and make sure everything blows cold and clean. A cabin filter replacement and an evaporator cleaning usually sort it out, but you want to know what you're walking into. The Mitsubishi Lancer is the final name on this list because it represents everything this video is about. A vehicle that was never designed to be glamorous, was never marketed as the toughest, and was never the first choice on anyone's dream board. But it survived, it endured, and it kept going long after the flashier, louder, more expensive cars had already given up and gone home. That's not just reliability, that's character.
And that, my friends, is the complete mechanic's secret list. 6 immortal vehicles you buy once and drive forever. Now, here's what I need from you. If this video made you rethink what reliable really means, smash that like button so hard your phone files a complaint. Drop a comment telling me which one of these 6 surprised you the most. I genuinely want to know, and I read every single one. And if you're new here and you want more videos like this, breakdowns of the cars that are actually worth your money, no sponsors, no dealership agendas, just straight truth, then hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a video. I'm working on the next one already, and trust me, it's gonna make this one look like a warm-up. I'll see you in the next one.